What's up guys, today we're going to go over what I believe will be the next major meta in Destiny 2, and that's going to be Sunbracers on Warlock. And these things have been good forever, but they've received a lot of buffs in the past year, and even more in Lightfall. And according to leaks, or if you just have a brain and play Destiny 2, it seems like we're guaranteed to be headed towards a Starfire Protocol nerf. And once that happens, I think Sunbracers have the best chance to replace Starfire Protocol. And in this video, I'll be showing off why, and arguing the fact that they're already equally as strong in a lot of different scenarios. So jumping right into the Sunbracers, why are they so good all of a sudden? Well, they've always been really good for Actor, but with Solar 3.0, with Touch of Flame, Solar Grenades increases linger duration, periodically emits blobs of lava around its perimeter, along with Ember of Ashes to increase the stacks of Scorch, making more ignitions. And with Lightfall, there is a new fragment where the Solar Grenade final blows will cure you, so now they have built-in healing, along with the fact Solar Grenades got a 20% damage increase in PvE with Lightfall. So first in this video, I want to talk about the damage that these grenades do. So looking at damage on Carl, just one singular Solar Grenade, as you see, it's going to do a lot of damage and cause one ignition and nearly kill Carl. I did this a lot yesterday without recording, and there was a few times it did kill him, but this time it left him with like 7-ish% health. And comparing that to double fusion grenade with Starfire Protocol, just for a baseline comparison, double fusion grenade only takes Carl down to 30% health. So just a singular Solar Grenade is doing easily 30 to up to 50% more damage depending on the blob RNG than two fusion grenades. And that is even considering the Sunbracers. With Sunbracers, we will be able to get Sunbracers ready for 4 seconds. Then we'll be able to throw 5 grenades before it runs out and get part of our 6-1 back. And Solar Grenades, as long as they've been in the game, they cannot stack the actual tick damage of the grenade, no matter how many you throw yourself or how many people in your fire team throw them. Only one can ever do the tick damage, but throwing multiple will do impact damage and increase the amount of blobs being spawned in. So look at that. What is the best way to take advantage of the lava blobs? Well, if you throw it on the ground, like below the target, you see they kind of go in every direction, and that's going to be a huge radius, and depending on the boss, a lot of those will be missing. So the better thing to do is actually throw it on a ceiling or even a wall directly above a target and let them fall down. When they fall down, they're going to be in a lot tighter of a radius, meaning more will hit. And just look at what this is like with Sunbracers, where you throw 5 in the same spot. It just starts to rain fire. Absolutely lava blobs everywhere. I mean, there's probably like 10 a second. It is pretty crazy. And we look at the damage that this does on a target. First with Carl. Carl isn't a huge boss by any means, and he doesn't really like to stand still. But even on Carl doing this, as you see, it just deletes them, right? And this is only one proc of Sunbracers, so 5 grenades. As you see, it just rains fire all over the place. Only like, 40% are probably hitting him, but he's just dead. And if we go over to the ball, one thing we can do is put on Tractor to give ourselves a debuff. And look at damage on Strike Boss. As you see, I mean, yeah, he's just dead. With the right boss fights where there's going to be a wall or a ceiling above them, this is arguably the strongest DPS in the game. It is really good, but both of those clips were with just one proc of Sunbracers. What happens if you went to a boss where you could proc it multiple times? Well, thanks to Hugo, the first person to solo Ribbon in Lightfall, this is what it would look like. Check out his video, link will be in the description and pinned comment. And yeah, I mean, you just throw countless Solar Grenades at the ceiling, and all the blobs fall down, constantly hitting Ribbon, causing ignitions. And even though the numbers look like it's not hitting for that much, yeah, you just solo Ribbon. So in the right boss fight, the Sunbracers are the highest damage in the game, and rival like old 1-2 punch builds, they are that good. And if we look at the build and how Sunbracers work internal play or versus champions and things like that, looking at the rest of the build, first starting off with your melee, the Celestial Fire will be more range, but as you see, every single hit will scorch. And if you get a Scorch final blow, it doesn't count as the melee final blow. And that is where the snap is more consistent. If you read it, it doesn't actually scorch until after they explode. So the initial impact will always be melee damage and will count for Sunbracers compared to the Celestial Fire. Sometimes the Scorch will be what actually gets the final blow and not work, but it has more range, so it's kind of like give and take. I prefer the snap for sure. But then our second aspect will be heat rises, mainly for where final blows while airborne increase the duration of heat rises and grant melee energy. Now our fragments of choice will be Ember of Searing, defeating scorched targets grants melee energy and creates a fire sprite, along with Ember of Torches, where our power melee hits will make us radiant. We already showed off Resolve and Ashes. Looking at our mods to finish off the build, Ashes to assets, because we'll be getting all kinds of grenade final blows, a siphon matching our primary, momentum transfer to help get our melee back, a firepower to create all kinds of orbs, and a melee kickstart to get a chunk of our melee back when we use it. Then we have a charge up with whatever reserves, a stacks on stacks with 1 invigoration and 1 recuperation. Then I have Outreach, Reaper, and a utility kickstart. And from our artifact, there's going to be 1 perk that is important. Solar Surge, collecting a fire sprite gives you armor charge with stacks on stacks that will give us 2. So now the way this build works is you simply just use your melee to proc Sunbracers and you just kind of like hop around throwing them. And if you have 4 armor charges when you use your melee, and if you get a final blow with it, you're going to basically get the entire melee back instantly just from that alone. You might need 1 more kill, but between the airborne kills and the scorch kills giving melee energy back, you're going to have no issue just constantly having your melee in this build, which then means infinite solar grenades, all of which do more damage than 2 fusion grenades, create all kinds of lava blobs, and heal on every single final blow. And for this build, your weapons don't really matter at all. You can use whatever you want. I was using Sunshot for general play because it now scorches, so it kind of feeds into this build even more, and it's just really good. But you can run this with your DPS loadout. You can run it with champion loadouts for Lost Sectors or Nightfalls. For example, the Leviathan's Breath with a pulse for anti-barrier and unstoppable, or an SMG if you need overload. You can use Thunderlord for overload plus a pulse for anti-barrier. So really you can do whatever combo you need, right, with your weapons. And talking about how this build works in in-game content and kind of comparing it to the Starfire protocol. So let's say there's 3 categories: Ackler, champions, and bosses. For Ackler, I think it's not even close. I think the Sunbracers are just straight up better. The amount of area you can cover, the amount of damage that these grenades do, the amount of lava blobs hitting different things, causing emissions, is simply better than fusion grenades. And for champions and higher health targets, mini bosses, wherever they are, I would argue already right now that the solar grenades are better. As we showed off, 1 solar grenade does roughly 50% more than 2 fusion grenades. And what I like to do with this build is for Ackler, I use my melee to proc Sunbracers. Then I throw either 3 or 4 grenades for the Ackler, but then I save my final one for the next champion. That way I always have it. And simply just throwing 1 solar grenade at a champion, mini boss, whatever it is already like going to be better than throwing multiple fusions. The only points I would give to Starfire Protocol is just how easy it is to use. With the Sunbracers, you definitely gotta be paying attention more. What I like to do is get the enemy weak before I melee them to guarantee that it gets the final blow. But I definitely think you could argue, if you get good at it, Sunbracers are already better for both Ackler and champions. But then for boss fights, in the situations where you can use Sunbracers and there's gonna be ads alive during the boss fight that you can proc the perk, and there's like a wall or ceiling or anything kind of near the boss, I think the peak of Sunbracers is higher, but just the ease of use and consistency of Starfire Protocol is just unmatched right now. But after the proposed leaked nerf, we're going to get roughly a 4th as many grenades as you do right now with Starfire Protocol. Right now, over a fight where you might be throwing like 8 to 10, you might in the future only be able to throw 2 or 3, and at that point, as we already showed off, 1 solar grenade is basically already the same. So at that point, you could argue just a single solar grenade will do the same thing anyways, but have all the upside of better Ackler, and in my opinion, better for mini bosses and champions. So I really do think Sunbracers will be the next meta in Destiny 2 once Starfire Protocol gets nerfed, and I would even argue it's arguably just as strong right now, maybe not as consistent for boss fights, but in the right ones, it's really good. And for general play, it's definitely already better. Anyways, let me know what you think about Sunbracers down below. Like usual, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.